then automate parts of it. And if you can, automate the whole thing. The cool thing about an SOP is it's basically scripting, but for humans. Welcome to Theory of Productivity. I'm Jess Brown, and as somebody who has multiple sclerosis and also has to deal with work, I know how important it is to find strategies that are actually effective. So let's do that today and start making some movement. It's easy to take on every new task that comes your way as though it's something that you've never done before. There could be a new design for a web page that comes in. It could be a new process for a task management that's been put into place. Maybe it's a new blog post that needs a featured image. We need to consider carefully when the appropriate time is to invent things. If you treat everything like something totally brand new, some brand new challenge, doesn't matter how easy it is or how complex the process is, it's going to waste a lot of time, energy, and efficiency. In reality, there's a lot of overlapping tasks, behaviors, steps, and processes that make up what we do at work. And I've found that a lot of these similarities can actually be used to my advantage as I've examined my work and where I can improve. And especially this is helpful for me with MS in reducing my stress and increasing that productivity. That's crucial for me. So although invention and creativity really are pretty messy processes that are hard to replicate, there are a lot of ingredients and factors that come into those processes that we can reuse. We can repeat those pieces of it. And really that's the sweet spot, is finding or building something that has the ability to work in a lot of different use cases and refining things down so that even though the requests that are coming in to you are unique and brand new, your tools, your knowledge, and your processes are ready to meet those new assignments. As an employee, I think what it comes down to is either being an SOP or creating the SOP. Now, an SOP is a standard operating procedure. Think of it basically as a checklist or maybe even an outline of some business process that needs to be done. Whether you've actually had one given to you, which in my experience is pretty rare, or you've just internalized an SOP for a certain task, you probably are actually using SOPs at your work all the time. If you're a developer, are you using Git to push your changes to a certain repo? Do you have to accomplish a certain amount of things like a QA check or some other process before your changes can go live? Do you need to do a code review? That's an SOP. If you're a designer, do you have to choose a canvas size for each new graphic that you're creating? Are you exporting your images with specific settings for specific cases? Are you creating a wireframe before you create the high-res mock-up? And are you checking in, along the way with your teammates? Those are SOPs. It's how work gets done. And usually it's how work gets done at your specific company or on your specific team, because a lot of times some teams do things a little bit differently. Maybe they have different technology or whatever that case may be. But here's where we get into the major opportunity for productivity boosting potential, the creation of SOPs rather than just internalizing them. Now, we're human, right? We have a limited capacity for decision making, for task switching, our memory. All of these things create constraints that we have to deal with as humans, and we face them day to day. You may even have other impacting factors like with your health, maybe a disability, or any number of things that can interfere or impact us. Why then, with all of this stuff that we have to deal with as humans, why are we trying to store everything that we need up here in our brains? So let's take an ad campaign as an example for this SOP process. You are a designer who's been tasked with creating the ads, and most likely you're going to be looking up the dimensions for the ad sizes that you'll need. You're going to pop open Photoshop or whatever design tool, and then you're going to create a canvas for each of these ads that you need. Grab the first one. You're going to grab your brand colors, maybe for the background, put in some text, throw in a button that has been styled, and then you're going to export that ad and then start on the next one, the next size. That seems pretty straightforward, right? The problem is that there's room to improve, and really it's because the intuitive way that you would approach this task is not always the most effective way to approach the task. And that's where we run into problems when our default is that internalized SOP. It's hard to examine. It only surfaces when you're actually doing those specific tasks. And you're forced to make lots of tiny decisions about how to accomplish the task over and over and over again. All right, so let's revisit this process and develop our SOP and see how that improves things. The first thing we're going to do is actually write out the process, whether that's just right after you've done the thing and you're looking back at what you did and writing out each step, or it's thinking about, okay, what do I need to do? I'm going to write down those steps. Whatever it is, make sure you actually write it down, because now we have an SOP base, something to work off of, something we can actually look at. Now that we have that, most likely our company is using some kind of ad platform that they pretty much always use. And therefore, there's going to be some default sizes for those ads that we don't have to keep looking up. We can just create a template for them that already has those sizes plugged in. Or you could even go even further and make a Photoshop action or something like that, where it just automatically resizes the canvas for you, depending on what's your preference. But now you don't have to look up those dimensions ever again. You've created a template, it's one and done. Then you can go in and make use of the Adobe's library function, which allows you to put assets together or even define brand colors that can be accessible to the entire team. And again, that's something you don't have to look up again as far as your colors. And you can also put in those most recent or most commonly used assets, and you never have to go back into the bottomless pit of Dropbox folders trying to look for some asset file. Now that we've actually identified those parts that can be optimized or improved, we can actually go do the thing, make the template, and then update the SOP to say, hey, use this template. Try following it step by step. Make that ad, make another ad, following that SOP step by step, following it exactly. If you find out that you forgot something, throw it back into the SOP, or if something feels clunky, revise it. This is going to be your flexible living document of how you get this particular task done. Then make sure you put that SOP somewhere you can actually find it again, and then pull it out every time that you have to do that particular task. Because now, instead of having to work on it, problem solve, and do this little ad, you can actually just zoom through it. Now, obviously, you don't have to do an SOP for literally every task that you do at work. Probably not that efficient to do that. Even more interesting, you might find that a part of an SOP is actually used a lot in other unrelated tasks. So maybe that becomes a separate SOP that you can use instead of creating a brand new one, right? That's that reusability again. But as far as creating a brand new SOP, this is the kind of task that I find is ideal. It's when a task is infrequent but high stakes, it's tedious or complex, and or it just takes too much energy to remember the specifics or the details. So I'll give you one more example for something that I recently did for my home insurance that checks all of those boxes. So due to some silly and highly inefficient rules with my mortgage and my HOA, I have to send proof of insurance every single year over to my mortgage company, and it's proof of insurance that my HOA provides. The first couple of years, I would get a threatening letter in the mail reminding me that I needed to do this, and I would have to suddenly go into a frenzy, dig through all the papers that I have, find the insurance carrier and contact information, and then I'd have to go look up, what did I do last year? What do I have to send to make sure that they can look me up and just take care of it? And then after that, I have to wait for the insurance carrier to email me back with the proof of insurance. Then I have to download that PDF, go find some random web page on my mortgage carrier site that's hard to find anyway, and then finally upload it, put in all my information, and case closed. This is the perfect task for an SOP, even though it's not work related, because it has to be done every year. There's no way that I'm going to remember everything, especially contact info and the stuff that I have to send to my insurance for them to be able to figure out what specific thing they need to provide back to me. And so this is how I solved this problem. Each year, I have an email automatically sent to my insurance carrier asking for the proof of insurance, and it has a pre-populated message with all of the information that they need to look me up. Then, instead of getting a threatening letter in my real mailbox that's alerting me that it's time to do this yet again, I see an email reply from my insurance company already done with half of the work, right? That's my trigger to go look up this SOP, which I put in Obsidian, my favorite personal knowledge management tool. And then I just download the PDF, click on the link that's in Obsidian, and then autofill the form and upload the PDF. The last step that I have to do is create next year's email and schedule that to be sent at the right time, and I'm done. I went from a stressed out week-long process to a 10-minute process that's accomplished ahead of time. I couldn't be more pleased with how much easier it is this year having done this process now. So ultimately, you have the opportunity in most things to control your process. And honestly, whenever you have that control, you should try and refine that process. Define and refine. Write it out. Test it. Then automate parts of it. And if you can, automate the whole thing. The cool thing about an SOP is it's basically scripting, but for humans. So if you have development skills, maybe you can turn these SOPs into literal scripts that Python or Bash script that just executes those steps for you. The thing is, you are human after all. And you have unique creative, innovative, strategic, visionary capabilities that just can get squandered when you don't have the energy left over from the tedious tasks, those administrative tasks, or the things that are repeatable and easy to just follow instructions on. So stop putting your energy to those tasks that are mindless. Let those be done by a computer or by creating the streamlined, easy to follow SOP that you can just follow and do and get that task out of the way. That way you have the room, the time, and the energy to do what you need to do as a human. Thanks so much for joining me. Keep up the momentum. Until next time on Theory of Productivity.